My name's Emily Parker. I'm 28 and this is how getting grounded cost my dad a fortune. That night, at his birthday party with 45 people there, my dad pointed at me and yelled the words that would ruin him. "You're grounded until you apologize to your stepmother." The whole room just laughed. A 28-year-old getting grounded. But 72 hours later, at the biggest deal of his life, with 200 VIPs watching, the lawyer for Meridian Holdings stopped signing and asked, "Excuse me, where's the CTO of NextGen Solutions? We need her signature on clause 7.3. All the color just drained from my dad's face when I walked in holding up my level 5 security badge. If you're watching this, go ahead and subscribe and let me know where you're from. For 3 years, I was stuck in my father Richard's new family. I was basically somewhere between his daughter and a renter he didn't want. I sent $8,500 to the house account every month, which was 70% of the bills, for a house where they acted like I didn't exist. The big bedroom remodel, that was my money. The pool service, my money. My stepbrother Tyler's new BMW for his 26th birthday, also my money. Emily just handles some IT stuff for the company. My dad would tell his business partners when they came over. That was after I single-handedly saved his company from going under by rebuilding their entire computer system. That $2 million government contract they got last year, I wrote every single technical detail for it. I stayed awake for 72 hours straight to hit the deadline. But at the celebration dinner, Richard toasted Tyler, talking all about his great leadership. My stepmother, Catherine, was an expert at making me disappear. "Oh, Emily's around," she'd say if a guest asked, waving her hand like she couldn't care less. "A manicure I paid for, by the way. She's so quiet you'd hardly know she's here, not like Tyler, who's such a natural leader." What they didn't know was I made way more money than they thought. My IT salary wasn't much, but the consulting I did on weekends, the side jobs they thought were just me, messing with computers, they were building something huge. Something they couldn't even dream of. Every morning I'd leave for my little tech job, as my dad called it. They never asked exactly where I was going. They never wondered why. I had my own reserved parking spot in the financial district. They never questioned why David Reynolds, the CEO of Meridian Holdings, had my personal cell number. I just learned to keep my head down in that house. But you can only push things down for so long before they blow up. The whole thing started with a $2 million mess Tyler made. He'd promised a client some impossible delivery dates without talking to anyone, and then he took off to Cabo for a week with his friends. When the client threatened a lawsuit, guess who they blamed? "This is your fault, Emily," Richard screamed at dinner, his face bright red. "You should have been watching him. You know Tyler's still learning the business." "Learning?" I slowly put my fork down. "He's 26, Dad, and I wasn't even on that project." Catherine's voice cut in sweet but sharp. "Don't make excuses. Family's supposed to support family. They said Tyler was counting on me to have his back." That night the email came. The client, Harrison Development, didn't just complain. They specifically asked to work with me from now on. They praised how I fixed the whole mess, my problem-solving and integrity. They wanted to make their contract bigger, but only if I was the one managing it. I sent it straight to Richard. 20 minutes later, Catherine was knocking on my door. "Delete that email," she said, plain and simple. "Tyler needs this win for his resume, but it's addressed to me. Doesn't matter what they want. What this family needs is what matters." She started looking at her nails, the ones from the $300 spa day I paid for last week. "Your father agrees?" The email never happened. I just watched her leave. My laptop was still open to that glowing email from Harrison Development. With just a few clicks, I forwarded it to my personal account, then to my lawyer, Rachel Bennett, with a quick note, document number 1. My father was never going to see that email, but it was definitely going to pop up again in a room full of people when the stakes were way higher. My weekends had become my own private time, and my family never bothered to ask why. "Emily's just doing her computer things," Catherine would tell anyone who asked, making typing motions with her fingers like I was just playing some video game. If they'd ever bothered to check where I was, they would have found me 20 floors up in the Rainier Tower, in an office with my name on the door. My real office, not the storage closet Richard so generously gave me at his company. The huge windows looked out over Elliott Bay. And on clear days, I could see all the way to the Olympics. David wants to confirm Monday's meeting. My assistant messaged me that Saturday. David Reynolds. To my family, he was just some guy from an old job who called every now and then. They had no clue he'd been my mentor at Stanford, or that we'd spent the last 3 years building something huge together. The call came right during Sunday dinner. Sorry, I said, glancing at my phone. It's my old boss. Richard rolled his eyes. Tell them you're with family. I stepped out on the patio, keeping my voice low. David, the Meridian Board, approved everything. $50 million for the construction project, but only if they use our exclusive tech. You know what this means, right? The exclusive deal is solid, ironclad. No next G, no deal. You still good with the timing? Diem. I looked through the window as Tyler helped himself to a third plate, while Catherine praised his appetite for success. Richard just nodded along, completely clueless. Monday's perfect, I said. I actually just signed something interesting myself. A new exclusive contract that starts next week. Good, because this deal will change everything. As I hung up, I noticed Richard watching me through the glass. He looked suspicious for a second, but then Tyler said something, and his attention went right back to his golden boy. Tuesday morning, the ambush I was waiting for finally happened. Catherine slid a stack of legal papers next to my coffee. Her smile was as sharp and cold as ice. Tyler's starting his investment portfolio, she announced. We need you to sign these transfer papers. I glanced at the first page. Share transfer agreement. My stomach dropped. These are my next G shares. Your what? Richard glanced up from his paper. They're my shares from the startup I've been working on. I kept my voice steady, even though my hand was shaking a little. They're worth about $2 million right now. Catherine's laugh was sharp and ugly. Perfect. Tyler needs some real investments to show potential employers, she said. Family helps family, don't forget. These could be worth $50 million after we go public, I said softly. Could be, Richard repeated, stressing the word as he put down his paper. Nothing's a sure thing, Emily, but Tyler's future is right now. He needs this for his applications to those investment companies. I stared down at the signature line. As soon as I signed, everything I had worked for would legally be my stepbrother's, the same guy who misspelled equity in his last email to me. I need to think about this. Think? Catherine's voice cut in. What's there to think about, unless you don't trust your family? Richard's face grew dark. Your mother's right. We put a roof over your head, we fed you, gave you everything. I pay for 70% of... And you can't do this one simple thing for your brother. He shot up from his chair, making it scrape across the floor. Sign it, Emily. Get it done by my birthday party this weekend, or we'll have to rethink your place in this family. The threat just hung there in the silence. My place in this family? Yeah, right, like I ever really had one. I understand, I said, putting the papers back in my bag. I'll let you know at your party. That night, I was sitting alone in my room, staring at the papers, when this memory just flooded back. It was 5 years ago, just after Mom died. Dad and I were in the hospital parking lot, and he held my hand. It's just us now, sweetie, he'd said, tears just rolling down his face. But I'm promising you, I will always, always be in your corner. Even if the entire world is against you, you'll still have me. That version of my dad vanished the day Catherine showed up with her perfect son, and that phony smile. He was the dad who taught me to code, who was so excited when I got into Stanford, who always called me his brilliant girl. But that guy was gone, replaced by someone who couldn't even remember my job. You're being dramatic again. That was his new favorite thing to say whenever I had a problem, like when Catherine shoved my mom's photos into the basement, or when Tyler got the office I'd just redone, when someone else took credit for my work. It was always, "You're being dramatic." I tried to reach him one last time on Wednesday night. I knocked on his study door. "Dad, can we talk, just us?" He didn't even look up from his screen. "If this is about the shares, we have nothing to talk about." Catherine's right. Family shares. "But Dad, this is my company. I built it." "You're being dramatic, Emily." There it was like clockwork. "Tyler needs this chance. You'll have other chances. You're resourceful." Resourceful? As if I was some kind of bug that would just survive anything they did to me. "Do you even have a clue what I do, Dad? Or where I work?" He finally looked up and he was clearly annoyed. "I ate computers. What else is there to know?" I just stood there for a second, burning the look on his face into my brain. "Nothing, Dad. There's nothing else you need to know. If you're watching this right now and have ever felt totally invisible in your own family, drop a comment for me below. It's wild that the people who should see you the clearest are usually the ones who won't even try to look. If you get what I'm going through, make sure you subscribe, because what happens next is going to be insane. What my family didn't know was that NextGen Solutions was 6 months from a $500 million IPO, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder. My 15% cut would be worth $75 million. But honestly, it was more than that. I'd built something that really mattered. The board was crystal clear at our last meeting. Personal problems can't get in the way of the IPO. They'd seen way too many startups get wrecked by family drama. David even pulled me aside after. He said, "Emily, I know your family situation is a mess, but we need you focused. NextGen is bigger than any personal drama." He even sent an email about it, which I totally saved. Keeping a professional distance from personal conflicts is key to our legal duty to investors. In other words, if my family's crap leaked into NextGen's business, I'd lose everything. Not just my money, but the jobs of our 200 employees. Can you believe the irony? My father was about to bet his entire company on a deal with Meridian Holdings, and he had no idea that Meridian's contract required NextGen to be involved. It was in Clause 7.3, buried on page 47 of the agreement. All technical work must be done exclusively by NextGen Solutions, with their CTO in charge of getting it done. I actually helped write that clause 2 years ago, when David first hired me as a tech advisor for Meridian. Now that one sentence would decide the fate of my dad's biggest deal. The question wasn't if I'd signed Tyler's papers anymore. The real question was, how much was my father going to lose when he finally found out who I really was? Have you ever been in a spot where your own family just doesn't trust or value you? Tell me your story below. I read all of them. If this video is making you feel seen, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more. We're just getting to the juicy part. And trust me, you do not want to miss what goes down at my dad's birthday party. Thursday's dinner wasn't family time, it was an ambush. Catherine had casually invited her sister and brother-in-law just so she'd have an audience for her little show. "Emily's being difficult about helping Tyler," she announced, passing the salad like she was an angel. "We're just asking for one signature." "Sign it," Tyler mumbled, with a mouthful of steak. "Just sign it." My dad's fork slammed on his plate. "I need more time." "Time for what?" Catherine's voice was sickeningly sweet. "To call lawyers to plot against your own family. That's not what I'm—" "Sign the papers, Emily." My dad's voice got dangerously quiet, that same tone he used when I was a kid. "Sign them, or I'm going to assume you're not part of this family." Her sister put on a show, gasping. Surely she wouldn't betray her family. What kind of person holds on to their success when their own brother is struggling? The nerve of them. It was unreal. Tyler never struggled a day in his life, while I worked 18-hour days to build my company. "If you don't sign before my birthday party," my dad continued, "I'll be forced to take action. You have 48 hours. "What kind of action?" I asked, even though I already knew. "I'll cut you out of my will for starters. Then we'll need to talk about your living situation. Catherine just smiled like she'd already won. 45 people are coming to the party, Emily. Important people? Business associates? You don't want to make a scene in front of everyone, do you? I looked around at their faces, all expecting me to break. So cruel, so sure I'd fold. I get it, I said flatly. 48 hours. As I walked away, I heard Catherine whisper to her sister, "She'll sign? Where else is she gonna go?" If only they knew I was already long gone for 3 years now. My hands were shaking when I called Rachel Bennett from my car parked 3 blocks away from the house I didn't feel safe in anymore. "Rachel, I need you to look over these transfer papers tonight. Send them over." Her voice was calm, professional, a lifeline. 20 minutes later, she called back. "Emily, these papers are a huge problem. They're trying to transfer shares of NextGen Solutions. My family has no clue what NextGen really is." Well, that's their first mistake. Their second is that this whole agreement looks shady. The valuation is listed at $2 million, but I'm seeing NextGen's pre-IPO valuation is almost $500 million. This is basically fraud. Can I say no without getting in legal trouble? "You can absolutely refuse, but Emily," Rachel paused. "Write everything down, every conversation, every threat, every email. If they push back after you refuse, you're going to need proof. They're threatening to cut me off if I don't sign by Saturday." "Are you recording these conversations?" "Starting now." "Yes, good. And Emily, I pulled up that Meridian Holdings contract your dad's company is going after. Did you know there's a tech requirement clause that involves NextGen Clause 7.3? "You knew," Rachel sounded shocked. "This changes everything. Your father needs you to sign way more than he knows. Document everything, especially at that birthday party. If they try to embarrass you in public and then find out they need you, the tables will completely turn." "Exactly. Keep your phone recording. Washington is a 2-party consent state, but at a public party there's no expectation of privacy. You're in the clear." I sat in my car, just staring at the house I grew up in. Through the windows I could see them all laughing, probably celebrating their win. "Rachel, get whatever paperwork we need for a clean break. I have a feeling Saturday is going to change everything." Friday afternoon, Richard called an emergency family meeting. The dining room was totally packed. Catherine's sister and her husband, 2 cousins I barely even know, and Richard's brother Kevin, who drove all the way up from Portland just for this little intervention. "We're here because we love Emily," Richard started, his voice dripping with fake concern. "But she's been acting out, being selfish, greedy, refusing to help her own brother get ahead. It's just heartbreaking," Catherine added, dabbing at her dry eyes. "We've given her everything, and this is the thanks we get." My uncle Kevin, who I once thought was on my side, just shook his head. "Emily, your mother would be so ashamed. She always shared everything she had." That hit right where he wanted it to. My mom, who died when I was 23, who never even met Catherine or Tyler, was now being used against me. "Tomorrow's party will have 45 of the most important people in Seattle," Richard went on. "The Hendersons, the Walkers, David Morrison from Meridian Holdings will be there. Everyone who matters. Do you really want them all to find out you're the daughter who betrayed her own family?" "Betrayed." I kept my voice as steady as I could, but I was furious. "What else would you call it?" Catherine jumped up and pointed at me. "You're sitting on a pile of cash while your brother's struggling to get by. Tyler doesn't even know what those shares are for." "Enough," Richard slammed his hand down on the table. "You have until tomorrow night. You either sign those papers at my party, in front of everyone to show we're a united family, or I'll announce that you're not my daughter anymore." The room went completely quiet. That threat just hung in the air. "I understand," I said, getting to my feet. "Tomorrow night everyone will know exactly where I stand." Richard smirked, thinking he'd already won. He had no idea he'd just set the date for his own career's funeral. Saturday morning, I heard the conversation that was going to be their undoing. Richard was in his study on speakerphone bragging about the Meridian deal. $50 million, Kevin. $50 million. It's the biggest deal in the company's history. We sign on Monday at the Four Seasons. You sure everything's lined up? Kevin's voice crackled on the speaker. Everything's perfect. I've even got their tech needs sorted out. It's some startup called NextGen. But my guy knows someone over there. It's handled. I just froze right there in the hall. His guy knew someone all right. Richard had no idea that someone was standing just 10 feet away. David Reynolds called me himself to confirm Richard kept going. He said as long as we have the tech partner locked in, we're golden. Something about an exclusive agreement. Clause 7 something. 7.3, I whispered to myself. The signing's gonna be huge. 200 guests, all the media a live stream for investors. This deal makes us real players. Kevin. The real deal. Through the crack in the door, I could see the draft of the contract sitting on his desk. The same one I took a picture of on Thursday night. The one where clause 7.3 says plain as day. Technical work must be done only by NextGen Solutions, and their CTO has to oversee it. Richard hung up, and then he saw me in the doorway. Eavesdropping. Just passing by. Big deal on Monday. The biggest. He puffed out his chest full of himself. While you're playing around with your little computer job, I'm building an empire. Maybe if you showed some of this ambition, instead of just being selfish, Tyler wouldn't need your shares. Right, I said quietly. Your empire? He just turned back to his papers, totally dismissing me. On his desk, right next to the Meridian contract, was an email he'd printed out from David Reynolds. I could just make out part of the subject line. NextGen Solutions integration, confirmed for Monday. If he'd only bothered to read the signature at the bottom of David's emails. C.C. Young, CTO, NextGen Solutions. My phone buzzed right as I finished packing. It was David Reynolds calling. Emily, about the signing on Monday. I need to step outside, I said real quick, noticing Catherine was hanging around nearby. Once I got out on the patio, I lowered my voice. David, what's up? Just making sure you'll be there. For something this big. The board wants the CTO present. Clause 7.3 is rock solid. Without your signature, the deal is dead. My father has no idea who I am at NextGen. I know Emily. But he's about to find out in the most public way you can imagine. Are you okay with that? I watched through the window as Richard showed Tyler something on his laptop, probably the Meridian contract. He was teaching his chosen heir about real business. I said, actually? David, it's perfect timing. Can you make sure the lawyers really push the exclusive agreement? Maybe get that notarized copy ready, the one we signed 2 years ago. The one making NextGen. The only tech provider for all Meridian's construction projects. Your idea, right? He asked. My idea, I confirmed. I remembered all the late nights I spent on that agreement, never guessing it would end up being this important. Monday at 3-4 Seasons Emerald Ballroom. The signing's at 3:30, but be there early. Security will have your level 5 badge ready. David. I hesitated. Thanks for believing in me when my own family wouldn't. Emily, you built half this company. You don't thank a partner for just stating facts. He paused. Is everything all right? You sound different. Everything's about to be exactly the way it's supposed to be. I hung up the phone. I saw my father watching me from his study window. He pointed at his watch, then held up 5 fingers. 5 hours until his party. 5 hours until his whole world came crashing down. The house was being done up for Richard's 60th birthday, like setting the stage for a train wreck. Caterers set out champagne glasses and florists were arranging the centerpieces, and Catherine was directing everything like a general getting ready for war. I was making my own preparations. First, I took pictures of the Meridian contract draft on Richard's desk while he was in the shower focusing on clause 7.3. The words were so simple, so perfect. This agreement is contingent upon NextGen Solutions' exclusive participation. Next, I called Rachel Bennett. I need that notarized exclusive agreement ready for Monday. The one you signed with Meridian 2 years ago. 3 copies, all certified. Perfect. And Rachel, I'm leaving tonight right after the party. Your room's empty. Everything that matters is already in my car. My laptop, my documents, my mom's jewelry. The things that made this place feel like home were already out. Recording devices ready. Phones are fully charged. Washington's two-party consent rule doesn't count for public parties. Good. Emily, what they're about to do to you is going to be the best thing that ever happened to me. I put the house key on my dresser next to a simple note I'd written. I respect your decision, Dad. This is mine. The last thing I packed was my level 5 CTO security badge from NextGen, and I tucked it safely in my purse. The same purse Catherine always made fun of, saying it was too plain for someone who should be representing the family right. From downstairs, I heard the first guests show up. Richard's loud laugh bounced off the walls as he greeted his business friends, the same people whose respect he cared about more than his own daughter's love. Emily, Catherine's voice cut through the noise. Get down here and bring the papers. I looked in the mirror one last time. Let's give them a birthday they won't forget. The party had that fake, flashy vibe that Richard loved. 45 of Seattle's business big shots were packed into our living room. Champagne was everywhere, and the conversations were getting louder. I recognized about half of them. People who'd blown me off at other parties, just writing me off as Richard Parker's quiet daughter, who worked with computers or something. All right, everyone, listen up. Richard tapped his glass, getting everyone's attention. I want to thank you all for coming to my 60th. But more importantly, I'm here to introduce the future of young construction, my son Tyler. Tyler kind of stumbled forward. He was already 3 drinks in, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's rent. My money, of course. Tyler is going to be taking on a bigger role in the company, Richard went on. He's shown incredible vision and leadership. What about Emily? Mrs. Henderson asked, one of the only people who ever even noticed me. Isn't she in the business too? Richard just laughed it off. Oh, Emily helps out with admin stuff, some basic IT support. She's reliable, in her own little way. Catherine stepped up, dripping in diamonds I'd pretty much paid for. Speaking of family business, we have an announcement to make tonight about family unity and support. I stood in the back, invisible like always, just watching them set their own trap. A few guests looked at me with sympathy. Or was that pity Richard's lawyer, Robert Chen? No, Robert Smith, after he changed it, was standing by the door, looking super uncomfortable. Where's that NextGen rep you mentioned, for the Meridian deal? Someone asked Richard. Oh, that's all handled by middlemen, Richard said, waving his hand like it was nothing. Just some tech startup. They're lucky to even be involved with a project this big. If only he knew that some startup was worth $500 million, and its CTO was standing 15 feet away holding a glass of champagne that she wasn't going to drink. Before we get back to the party, Catherine announced, her voice cutting through the noise. We have a small family matter to handle. Emily, sweetheart, would you come up here? Every single eye in the room turned to me. I walked forward nice and slow with my phone recording in my pocket. As you all know, Catherine continued, family is everything to the Parkers. Supporting each other, sharing success, lifting each other up. That's why we're so proud that Emily has agreed to help launch Tyler's investment career. I haven't agreed to anything, I said loud and clear. The room went dead silent. Catherine's smile twitched but stayed in place. Don't be shy, dear. Tell everyone how you're transferring your shares to help your brother. I'm not transferring anything. Richard's face turned bright red. Emily, we talked about this. You demanded it. There's a big difference. This is embarrassing, someone whispered. You're right, I said, turning to face the whole crowd. This is embarrassing, being pressured to give away $2 million in shares. Shares that could be worth $50 million after the IPO to someone who's never worked a day in his life. Yeah, that's very embarrassing. How dare you? Catherine shot back, stepping toward me. After everything we've done for you. You mean after I paid for 70% of the household bills? After I saved Richard's company from going bankrupt? After I wrote the proposals that won his contracts while Tyler took all the credit? You ungrateful, Tyler started. Tyler, I cut him off. Can you even spell equity correctly? Because you misspelled it 3 times in your last email. The room was completely silent now. Richard's business partners were all just staring like they were watching a car crash. You're being dramatic, Richard said, his usual way of dismissing me. No, I replied. I'm being factual, and I'm done being erased in my own family. Richard shot up from his chair, the scraping sound echoing in the dead silent room. Emily Parker. His voice just boomed. You're grounded until you apologize to your stepmother. For a second, no one moved. Then someone snickered, then another. Soon a wave of awkward laughter filled the room. Did he really just, Mrs. Henderson whispered to her husband, ground a 28-year-old? Mr. Walker finished, stunned. She's acting like a kid, so I'm going to treat her like one. Richard shot back, not giving an inch. You're staying in this house until you show this family some respect. Richard, his brother Tom tried to cut in. Maybe we should just... No. Richard's face was beet red. I'm done being nice. Emily, you have 2 choices. You either sign those papers and apologize to Catherine in front of everyone right now, or you're not my daughter anymore. The room went dead quiet. 45 of Seattle's richest people watched Richard Young publicly trash his own daughter over money she earned herself. I slowly scanned the room, burning their faces into my memory. The shock, the judgment, and the excitement they were trying to hide while watching this disaster unfold. These were the people Richard cared about impressing more than his own daughter. All right, I said quietly. Finally coming to your senses, Catherine smirked. No, I'm accepting his terms. I'm grounded. I put down my champagne. And since I'm grounded, I should probably go to my room. Don't you dare walk away from me, Richard yelled. But I was already walking. My steps were firm on the marble floor his company installed with my money. Behind me, the party erupted in whispers. The last thing I heard was Richard saying, she'll be back down in an hour begging to sign those papers. If you're mad about how Richard and Catherine just treated Emily, type justice in the comments right now. Trust me, karma's about to hit them in a way they'll never see coming. Share this with anyone who's been messed with by a toxic family. This next part is where everything changes. And I mean everything. I didn't go to my room. I walked straight through the house, past the kitchen staff, who tried not to stare, and went out at the back door to my car. My suitcases were already in the trunk. My laptop bag was sitting on the passenger seat. Everything I cared about from 28 years in that house fit into a Honda Civic. Back inside, I could hear the party starting up again. Richard was going on about responsibility and how my generation is so entitled. Catherine was probably eating it up. She was finally getting rid of the stepdaughter, who ruined her picture-perfect family. I snuck back in the side door just long enough to put my house key on the kitchen counter, right next to a note I'd already written. It said, I respect your decision, Dad. This is mine. Emily. Tyler stumbled into the doorway completely drunk. Dad says you have until morning to apologize. Yeah, tell him I heard him. You're really going to throw away your family over some money? I looked at my stepbrother, 26 years old, never had a job. He lives on my money and still calls me selfish. Tyler, do you even know what Next Gen Solutions does? Some tech stuff. Who cares, right? I repeated. Who cares? I grabbed my purse, feeling my CTO badge inside. Enjoy the party. Where are you going? You're grounded. Going to my room, I lied, walking right past him. Finally learning your place, he called out, sounding just like Dad. I stopped on the stairs and looked back one last time. Actually, Tyler, I've always known my place. It just wasn't here. By the time they checked my room in the morning, I'd already be at my downtown apartment getting ready for the biggest meeting of Richard Parker's life, one he had no idea was going to ruin him. Sunday morning, my phone was blowing up with missed calls. 43 from Richard, 15 from Catherine, and even 5 from Tyler. I didn't answer a single one. The first voicemail was from Richard, and he was pissed. Your room is empty. Your key's on the counter. This isn't what we talked about, Emily. Call me right now. The 5th call was Catherine. her voice full of fake worry. "Sweetie, we're worried. This isn't like you. Just come home so we can figure this out." The 10th voicemail was Richard again, and now he was panicking. "Emily Rachel Bennett just called me. She said she's your lawyer. What's going on? Call me back." But the 20th message is the one that made me smile. It was Richard, but his voice sounded different, weaker. "Mr. Morrison from Meridian called about the signing tomorrow. He asked if you were going to be there." Why would he ask that, Emily? "What did you do?" I texted Rachel. "They found the empty room." She texted back right away. "Richard called 3 times. I told him, I'm her lawyer, and from now on you talk to me. He actually asked if you were having some kind of breakdown." "What did you tell him?" "That you're the sanest person I know, and that he should be real careful what he says, especially with what's coming." "Did you say anything about Monday?" "Just that you had a prior professional commitment you had to take care of." I spent Sunday at my real home, the downtown apartment they didn't even know about. It has 2 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of place Richard would have bragged about if he knew his own daughter owned it free and clear. I bought it with my first-gen bonus 2 years ago. David called me that night. "Everything ready for tomorrow. More than ready. My father's going to be there, front and center. He asked to sign first for the cameras." "Perfect. The more public, the better." "Emily, are you sure you want to do this?" "David, I've never been more sure about anything in my entire life." Monday, November 15th, at 3 p.m., the Four Seasons Hotel Emerald Ballroom. The place was incredible. Crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the Sound. 200 chairs were set up theater-style, all facing a raised stage for the signing. Cameras were set up everywhere, and a live stream was already running for investors who couldn't be there. I watched from a service entrance as all the big shots in Seattle business started coming in. Tech moguls, real estate developers, people from the city council, basically everyone who mattered in Richard's world. This was his big moment, his proof that young construction had finally hit the big time. Richard showed up at 2:30. Catherine was on his arm, and Tyler was trailing behind them in a suit that didn't fit right. He worked the room just like a politician, shaking hands, slapping people on the back, his laugh bouncing off the marble walls. $50 million. I heard him tell the Hendersons. Biggest construction deal in the Seattle this year. David Reynolds and his team walked in at 2:45 with a whole crew of lawyers right behind him. The CEO of Meridian Holding got everyone's attention without even trying. You could just feel the energy in the room shift. "Richard," David held out his hand. "Ready to make history?" "I was born ready," Richard shot back. His chest puffed out. "Everything's set. All the boxes are checked. It's perfect." Richard missed the small frown on David's face. "And your tech partner? Oh, they're confirmed. It's all handled?" Richard waved it off. "Just some startup, but my guys know their guys." David's lawyer leaned over and whispered something. David just nodded, his face impossible to read. "All right then," David said. "Let's get this started." They walked up to the stage. Richard sat down at the table, pen in hand, as cameras flashed everywhere. This was it, the moment he'd worked for over 20 years. He had no idea he was about to lose it all. And all because he grounded the wrong daughter. "Ladies and gentlemen," David Reynolds said to the crowd, "thank you for being here to see this historic partnership between Meridian Holdings and Young Construction. This $50 million project is going to change the Seattle skyline." The whole room erupted in applause. Richard was soaking up all the attention. Catherine was right next to him, playing the role of the perfect supportive wife. Tyler was already on his phone, probably posting about his dad's big win. "Before we sign," David went on, "I just wanted to stress that this deal is about more than just building. It's about new technology. Our exclusive deal with NextGen Solutions will make sure this project sets a new standard for the entire industry." Richard nodded eagerly, even though he had no clue what that really meant. The lawyers brought out the contracts. 3 copies. Clean white pages with neat black ink. Richard picked up his Mont Blanc pen, the one Catherine gave him, the one she bought with my money, and got ready for his big moment. Mr. Parker, if you'll just sign here. The lawyer pointed. Richard signed his name with a big fancy flourish. 1 copy, 2 copies. As he reached for the third one, "Wait," said Meridian's top lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Michelle Carter, holding up a hand. "We have to verify compliance on Clause 7.3 first after our changes." Clause 7.3. Richard's pen froze. The NextGen Solutions exclusive deal. We need the signature from their CTO before this contract is valid. The room started whispering. Richard's smile faded. That's just a formality. My people have been talking to their people." "It's not a formality," Michelle said firmly. "It's a legal requirement. Without Emily Parker's signature, this contract is worthless." The room went dead silent. All the color drained from Richard's face. "Who? Emily Parker, the Chief Technology Officer of NextGen Solutions. She needs to be here now." Every single head in the room turned to look at Richard. 200 of Seattle's most powerful people watched his confusion turn to pure horror. "There has to be a mistake," Richard stammered, his voice cracking. "Emily is my daughter. She works in IT support. She's not. She can't be." Just then the ballroom door swung open. I walked in wearing my best power suit, the one I bought for NextGen board meetings, not for family dinners. My level 5 security badge was hanging from my jacket where everyone could see it. Every step I took was deliberate, confident like someone who owned rooms like this. "Good afternoon, Mr. Reynolds," I said, shaking David's hand. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic from the NextGen offices was a nightmare." Emily Richards' voice was just a whisper. I turned to face my dad, the man who grounded me 60 hours ago, 'cause I wouldn't give away my shares. The same man who called me dramatic, selfish, and ungrateful. "Hey, Dad, I hear you need my signature. You're the CTO?" Catherine looked like she'd seen a ghost, her perfect composure finally cracking after 3 years. I pulled out my business card and placed it on the table. Co-founder, actually. David and I built NextGen together. The room just started buzzing with whispers. Phones popped up everywhere. People were Googling my name like crazy. In seconds, they found it all: my LinkedIn, my Forbes features, the TechCrunch articles about NextGen's game-changing platform. "But you said you worked in IT support," Tyler blurted out. "No," I corrected him. "Dad said I worked in IT support. He never bothered to ask what I actually did." I reached into my briefcase and pulled out the notarized exclusive agreement. "This is the contract between NextGen and Meridian signed 2 years ago. I'm the only person who can approve our involvement in Meridian projects." Richard stared at the document, then at me, then back at the document. His $50 million deal, his big moment of triumph, his entire future, it all depended on the daughter he just publicly humiliated and disowned. "Show them the proof," David said calmly. I laid everything out on the table, each piece of evidence hitting them hard. My CTO security badge, level 5, the highest clearance you can get at NextGen. The original company papers, showing me as a co-founder with 30% equity, which is now 15% worth $75 million. The notarized exclusive deal with Meridian from 2 years ago that requires my personal sign-off for any project integration. Email chains between David and me talking about the technical needs for Richard's project dated weeks before today. "This can't be real," Richard muttered, shuffling through the papers. "Oh, it's all real, Mr. Parker," Michelle Coleman confirmed. "We've verified it all. Your daughter is one of the most successful CTOs in Seattle. NextGen's platform is why Meridian chose your company. It was their only way to get the technology." "But she never said anything." Catherine's voice was high with panic. "I tried to tell you Saturday night," I said calmly. "You were too busy demanding I give my shares to Tyler to listen." You could hear a gasp from the crowd. The Henderson family, who saw the whole mess on Saturday, were whispering like crazy. The story was ripping through the room. Richard Parker had grounded his adult daughter for refusing to give away her shares in a $500 million company. Please, Richard said quietly, his pride just crumbling in front of 200 witnesses. Emily, please sign the contract. Why would I do that? I asked. According to you, I'm grounded until I apologize for keeping what I earned. And according to you, I'm not even your daughter anymore. The cameras were still rolling. The live stream was still up. Thousands of investors were watching Richard Parker beg the daughter he threw away. Emily, sweetheart, Richard's voice cracked. He hadn't called me that in 3 years. You're my daughter. You'll always be my daughter. I was just angry. I didn't mean it. You said it in front of 45 people, so you meant it, I said calmly. This is ridiculous. Catherine stepped up, so desperate she was getting reckless. Just sign it, Emily. Stop being so spiteful. Spiteful? I turned to her. You mean like when you made me delete the Harrison Project email praising my work so Tyler could take all the credit? Or how about when you demanded I hand over shares worth $50 million to your son who can't even spell equity? Those shares are only worth $2 million, Tyler protested. David Reynolds actually laughed out loud. Mr. Parker, your stepson clearly has no idea how valuations work. NextGen is closing a Series D funding round at a $500 million valuation. Your daughter's shares are worth roughly $75 million before we go public. The number just hung there in the air. $75 million. That's more than Richard's company ever made in its entire 30-year history. You're worth... Richard couldn't even finish his sentence. About 10 times what you are. Yep. I let that sink in. The daughter you called dramatic. The one you said had some little computer job. The one you grounded like a kid. Please. Richard was begging now, his pride completely gone. The company needs this deal. We've bet everything on it. Without Meridian, we're finished. I know, I said simply. I've seen your books. You bet the whole farm on this deal. Then you know what you're doing to me. I know exactly what I'm doing. I picked up the pen, looking at it for a second. I'm just showing you the same consideration you showed me Saturday night. The same respect, the same family loyalty. I put the pen back down. I didn't sign it. The ballroom was dead silent. 200 people held their breath as I stood over the contract that would either save or kill my father's company. I'm not signing this, I announced loud and clear. Richard's knees literally buckled. Catherine grabbed his arm, her face white as a sheet. But I'll tell you why, I continued. This isn't about the money. It's not about getting even. It's about respect. I turned to face the room, all these people who saw me humiliated and were now watching me get justice. On Saturday, my father told me that family shares everything, but sharing takes respect. It takes trust, and it takes recognizing that every person has value. For 3 years, I've been treated like I'm invisible in my own home while building a company worth $500 million. We didn't know, Richard pleaded. That's because you never bothered to ask. You never wondered why. I had weekend meetings, never questioned why David Reynolds had my cell, never once thought that maybe, just maybe your daughter was more than just IT support. I faced David. Meridian's values are respect, innovation, and integrity. Young Construction has shown none of those. I can't in good conscience connect NextGen's name to a company that treats its own family as disposable when they don't fall in line. You're destroying me? Richard whispered. No, Dad. You destroyed us the second you chose your new family over your own daughter. I'm just turning down a business deal. I gathered my papers, putting them neatly into my briefcase. Mr. Morrison NextGen is still 100% committed to Meridian's other projects. We'll find you a construction partner who actually shares our values. Completely understood, David replied, and you could see the respect in his eyes. I walked toward the exit, my heels clicking on the marble. At the door, I turned back for one last look. Trust is everything in business, Dad. And you broke mine. $50 million can't fix that. It all fell apart right away. The deal's off, David Reynolds told the shocked room. Meridian Holdings isn't moving forward without NextGen. Wait. Richard lunged, sending papers flying. There's gotta be another way to work this out. There's nothing to negotiate, Michelle Carter said flatly. Clause 7.3 can't be waived. Without Miss Parker's signature, this contract is worthless. The live stream chat just blew up. Investors watching online were already backing out. In just a few minutes, Young Construction's stock started to tank. You can't do this, Catherine yelled at David. One signature can't be this important. That signature from your stepdaughter is worth $50 million to you, David said coldly. Maybe you should have thought about that before. Tyler finally getting how bad this was turned on his mom. You told me she was a nobody. You said she'd just given. Shut up, Tyler. Catherine snapped, her perfect image shattering. The room cleared out fast. All of Seattle's bigwigs were bailing, but the whispering had already started. He grounded his own daughter. $75 million in shares. Made her pay for her own stuff, but treated her like the help. Oh my God, what about the Harrison development deal? She's the one who saved that deal. And they gave all the credit to her brother. Richard was just frozen, staring at the unsigned papers. His phone was blowing up board members, investors, everyone who'd seen the disaster live. Mr. Parker. A reporter was suddenly there, holding out a microphone. Seattle Business Journal. Can you tell us why you didn't know your own daughter was the CTO of NextGen? Is it true you tried to make her give her shares to your stepson? That's not. Did you seriously ground a 28-year-old woman? The questions just kept coming, one after another. Richard Parker, the man who just wanted respect from Seattle's business world, had just become its latest train wreck. By Tuesday morning, it was all over. The Seattle Business Journal's headline said it all. Young Construction loses $50 million deal after CEO doesn't recognize daughter's tech empire. The company's stock dropped 40% overnight. They had to stop trading twice because things were so crazy. The board called an emergency meeting for noon. I watched it all on the news from my office at NextGen. I was totally calm. Rachel Bennett called me every hour with updates. The board voted. Richard's out as CEO starting right now, and 3 more contracts just got canceled. Companies are worried about their reputation. Rainier Partners took back Tyler's job offer. They saw the live stream. That live stream. It was beautiful. The perfect proof, showing Richard Parker begging the daughter he tossed aside to save him. It got over 2 million views in just 24 hours. Grounded CEO was trending on Twitter. Forbes called. They wanted an interview. TechCrunch wanted a comment. The Wall Street Journal was writing a story on family drama in the tech world. I had Rachel turn them all down. Saying nothing said everything. David Reynolds put out a statement. It said Meridian Holdings only works with partners who value respect. We're looking forward to working with construction firms that share our values. In other words, anyone who treats people like Richard treated me would never see a dime from Meridian. By Thursday, the numbers were in. Young Construction's market cap, down $200 million. Canceled contracts, 6 major projects. The board voted 12-2 against Richard. It took just 48 hours from the signing to his termination. Richard Parker, who spent 30 years building his company, destroyed it all in one weekend for grounding the wrong person. How's it feel? Rachel asked me on our call. Like justice, I said, the kind with a paper trail. His personal life blew up even more spectacularly than his professional life. Catherine filed for divorce that Friday, not even a week after the signing ceremony went bust. Her lawyer's statement to the press was very carefully worded. Mrs. Parker was deliberately kept in the dark about the family's finances and left out of major decisions about their assets. Translation: she was jumping off a sinking ship and taking anything that wasn't nailed down. She's claiming I hid assets from her, Richard told his brother Kevin, who told his wife, who then told everyone at her book club, she wants half of everything plus alimony. The irony was just perfect. Catherine, the one who planned the whole thing to steal my shares, was now claiming she got cheated out of her fair share. Tyler's fall was just as fast. Without his mom's protection or my money, reality hit him hard. The entry-level job he finally got doing data entry at a small logistics company paid $35,000 a year. His Instagram, which was once full of luxury car selfies and VIP photos, just went dark. He asked if NextGen was hiring. Rachel told me, trying her best not to laugh. I told him to submit his resume online like everyone else. He never did. He probably couldn't figure out how to format it right. The family that watched me get humiliated scattered like roaches when the lights came on. Uncle Kevin stopped taking Richard's calls. Catherine's sister unfriended everyone on Facebook. The cousins who lectured me about family loyalty acted like we'd never met. But the biggest hit came from their social circle. The country club suspended Richard's membership to review his finances. The charity boards Catherine had clawed her way onto quietly asked her to resign. The holiday party invitations that used to flood their mailbox just stopped coming. Richard Parker wanted respect from Seattle's elite. Instead, he became their favorite cautionary tale about being too proud, about greed and the danger of underestimating your own daughter. The desperation started 2 weeks after the deal collapsed. First came the emails, 47 of them, and each one was more panicked than the last. Emily, we need to talk. Please, this is destroying everything I built. Your mother would want us to make up. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Then the phone calls started. My assistant kept a log. 83 tries in 5 days. I didn't answer a single one. He even tried to show up at the NextGen offices. Our security had his photo at every entrance with one instruction: do not let him in. Don't talk to him. Call the cops if he won't leave. My head of security said he stood outside for 3 hours yesterday, just staring at the building. Flowers showed up every single day, expensive ones with notes that got more and more desperate. To my brilliant daughter, I see you now. Please forgive a foolish old man. I was wrong about everything. I had them all donated to the children's hospital. At least someone could enjoy them. Richard even started using go-betweens. Uncle Tom called, sounding all awkward. He's really broken up, Emily. Maybe you could just hear him out. Did you call him when he humiliated me in front of 45 people? No. Then we have nothing to talk about. The Hendersons, who saw the whole thing go down, reached out. They were a lot more thoughtful. We never knew what you'd actually accomplished. If you ever need references or anything, please don't hesitate. I appreciated the offer, but I didn't need it. NextGen's IPO was happening in 4 months. My net worth was about to cross $300 million. I'd built my success without any family support. I sure didn't need it now. But Richard kept trying, and each time it was more pathetic. He just couldn't seem to get that some bridges, once you burn them, can't be rebuilt with sorries and flowers. 3 months after that signing ceremony, you couldn't deny my success. Forbes put me on the cover of their 30 Under 30. The headline was, "The CTO who built a $2 billion company while her family thought she did it support." The article was deep. It laid out my journey from Stanford to NextGen, the late nights coding while my family slept, the board meetings I was in while they thought I was just playing with computers. But the line that went viral was the quote from David Reynolds. Emily Young built 60% of our platform's architecture all by herself. She's not just a CTO, she's a visionary who saw things everyone else missed. The fact that her own father missed it too, that's his loss, not ours. TechCrunch followed that with a story called "The $50 Grounding: How Family Toxicity Nearly Derailed Seattle's Next Unicorn." The tech community had my back in a way my own flesh and blood never did. Female CTOs reached out with support. Startup founders shared their own stories about their families not believing in them. A group called Tech Leaders Against Toxic Families invited me to speak at their conference. I turned down the speech, but donated $100,000 to their scholarship fund for young tech people getting away from unsupportive homes. The IPO was announced in March. NextGen's valuation, $2 billion. My stake, $300 million. That same week, I launched the Young Women in Tech Foundation, making a point to use my last name to take it back from the man who tried to cut me off. Our mission, supporting young women in tech whose families didn't believe in their potential. The first scholarship went to a 19-year-old whose parents wanted her to quit coding and find a husband. I gave her the check myself, remembering my own dad brushing off my little computer job. I told her never let anyone make you feel small, especially not family. 6 months after the grounding that changed everything, I woke up in my new penthouse, living a life I'd built completely on my own terms. The Pike Place view was incredible, but it wasn't the luxury that mattered. It was the peace. Nobody here questioned my worth. Nobody demanded I shrink myself just to make them comfortable. Nobody was using my success like their personal ATM. My mornings were my own. Coffee on the terrace. I'd check NextGen's overnight numbers, then jump on a video call with David about our move into Europe. We just hired 50 new engineers and opened offices in London and Berlin, and we were closing partnerships worth $500 million. The Singapore Sovereign Wealth Fund wanted in. David said they were talking a $3 billion valuation. $3 billion. The company my father never asked about was now worth $3 billion. My personal life was finally good too. I was dating Andrew, a biotech founder, who never called my ambitions dramatic or told me to tone down my success. He cheered for my wins. He supported my calls, and he knew respect wasn't up for debate. Your dad called my office, he said over dinner one night. He wanted to know if I could talk some sense into you. What did you say? That you're the most sensible person I know? And he should have realized that before grounding a grown woman. My foundation had given out 12 scholarships. And at NextGen, we'd promoted 3 female engineers to senior jobs. My spare bedroom was now an office where I helped young women deal with toxic families while trying to build their careers. This was real success. Not the money or the press, but the freedom to live without explaining myself, to win without asking permission, to do well and not apologize for it. Every morning I woke up knowing I had picked myself, and that choice was everything. The coffee shop thing happened on a rainy Tuesday in April, 7 months after the birthday party that wrecked it all. I was looking over contracts at my usual spot when a shadow fell on my table. I looked up and saw Richard, but not the one I knew. This man was 20 pounds lighter, his hair was completely gray, and his expensive suit was gone. Just a simple sweater and jeans. "Hello, Emily." I just stared at him for a second. Then I pointed to the chair. "You have 10 minutes. I've got a board meeting at 3. He sat down so carefully, like he was afraid the chair would reject him too. "You look well." "I am well." "That Forbes article, I read it. The whole thing 3 times. And I'm an idiot." His voice cracked. I had a brilliant, successful daughter right in front of my face, and I was too caught up in Catherine's games and my own ego to see it. "Catherine didn't make you ignore me, Dad. She didn't force you to call my job little computer things. That was all you." He just nodded, taking it. "You're right. I wanted this perfect new family so bad that I destroyed the real one I had. So how's that perfect family working out? Catherine took half of what I had left. Tyler won't take my calls. I guess I'm not useful to him anymore. The house is in foreclosure." He gave a bitter laugh. "The house you paid for 70% of, and I'm losing it." I said nothing. His problems weren't my problems. "I'm not here for money," he added real fast. "I know I burned that bridge. I wanted you to know that I finally see you. I know it's too late, but I do. Your 10 minutes are up." Richard started to get up, then he stopped. Could we maybe try again? Not as business partners, not as anything, just as father and daughter." I closed my laptop and gave him my full attention for the first time in months. On a few conditions, I said real careful. His eyes lit up with desperate hope. Anything. First, you're going to therapy, both individual and family. You need to figure out why you were so quick to ditch me for your new family. I've actually started seeing Dr. Martinez twice a week, he said. That surprised me. Second, we're never doing business together, ever. You don't get to make money off my success after you blew it off for years. Understood, he said. Third, if anyone asks you, tell them exactly what happened. No changing the story, no playing it down, no misunderstandings. You grounded your 28-year-old daughter for not giving away $75 million in assets. You own that. He flinched, but he nodded. Fourth, respect isn't optional. One comment about me being dramatic. One hint that I'm overreacting. One tried to guilt trip me about family loyalty, and we're done for good. I accept all of it. Fifth, this isn't us getting back together. It's a maybe. We'll start with coffee once a month in public places only. You earn my trust back slowly, if you even can. Coffee once a month, he repeated. I can do that. I stood up and started gathering my things. Next month, first Tuesday, same place, same time. Don't be late. Emily, he called out as I got to the door. What you built? Next gen. It's incredible. You're incredible. I know. I replied, simple as that. I always was. You're just finally seeing it. As I walked to my car, I felt so much lighter. Not because I'd forgiven him. Forgiveness was going to take years if it ever happened. It was because I'd laid down the law, crystal clear, respect me or lose me. This time he knew I meant it. Looking back now, I realized getting grounded at 28 was the best gift my father ever gave me, just not in the way he planned. That humiliation in front of 45 people wasn't just the last straw. It was what set me free. For 3 years, I'd been making myself smaller to fit their story. I hid my success. I played down what I'd accomplished, and I paid for the privilege of being ignored. The grounding freed me from the exhausting act of pretending to be less than I was. Sometimes losing your family means finding yourself. The price for them to accept me was for me to be invisible. The cost of their love was my self-respect. When Richard grounded me, he thought he was putting me in my place. But instead, he set me free to claim my real spot at the head of tables he could never afford to be at. Success, I learned, is the best revenge. Not because it gets back at the people who hurt you, but because it proves they were dead wrong about what you're worth. Every big goal. NextGen hit every award I won. Every young woman our foundation helped was proof that them writing me off was their failure, not mine. But the biggest lesson was about boundaries. Family doesn't get a free pass to your life, your money, or anything you've built. Being related by blood isn't a blank check to be disrespectful. No is a complete sentence, especially to parents who think their kids owe them the world. My mother always said, when people show you who they are, believe them. Richard showed me exactly who he was that night at his party. Catherine showed her true colors with every manipulative demand. Tyler showed his character by taking credit for my work. I believed them, and then I chose to believe in myself more. Grounding me was supposed to crush my spirit, but it just pushed me harder. If you're still watching, I bet some of this sounds pretty familiar. Maybe you're the daughter who's always ignored while your brothers get praised, or the son whose parents say your dreams are a joke. Or maybe your partner calls your career a little hobby. Listen up. This is what you need to hear. You don't need them to approve of you. And when you're dealing with people like that, keep a record of everything. Save the emails. Record your calls if you can. Keep every receipt. It's not about getting even. It's about protecting yourself when they start lying. It's not selfish to put yourself first. You don't owe anybody a piece of your success, especially the ones who never thought you'd make it. Being family doesn't give them a free ticket to your money or your connections or your time and energy. Sometimes the family you pick people like my mentor David or my lawyer Rachel or a partner who actually gets you. That family means more than the one you were born with. Build that chosen family like you'd build a business. Pick people who lift you up and know where the line is. And don't forget, it's not dramatic to have standards. It's not selfish to protect what's yours. And you're not ungrateful for refusing to be made small. Just 3 years ago, I was paying 70% of the bills in a house where no one even saw me. Now, I'm running a $3 billion company, and I'm helping other young women get out of those same traps. The only thing that changed, I stopped asking for permission to be me. I'm Emily Parker, and yeah, I kept the name. Not for the guy who tried to cut me off, but to remind me that I can take anything, even something awful, and make it my strength. You deserve to be respected. You deserve to be acknowledged. You deserve for people to see the real you. And if they won't look, build something so big and bright they can't ignore it. Family might not be forever, but your self-respect, that's non-negotiable. If any of this hit home for you, please share this with someone who's dealing with a toxic family. Hit subscribe for more stories about people who bet on themselves and won. Drop boundaries in the comments if you agree that respect isn't optional, even when it's family.